Alright, welcome back. Part 5 of the Defiant build series. Last time we glued in the battery bay floor. I can't remember what else we did. This one we're going to sand the core with a random orbital sander. You can do it with a hand sander too, but you just got to use, heavy duty grit, like 80 grit, 100 grit. 80 is pretty damn good. We're also going to lay in the servo holes, see if we can figure out where we're going to put the camera. Let's get started. So I'm just going to pull the pins out here from the battery bay floor. So later on when we get to finishing up, probably just before laminating, I'll cut in some slots here to run a piece of Velcro and see how I got it on the prototype here with the Velcro running right through the battery bay floor. It's a bulletproof battery installation there. All right. Sorry for the noise. This is going to be loud. If you got headphones on, plug your ears. Uh-oh. I might be going to hand sanding myself, huh? Maybe I tripped the breaker? So it doesn't take a lot of sanding on this, but you want to sand it until it's kind of fuzzy, like smooth and fuzzy. You can feel the difference from when you first start. From a nice, this is this is the hot wire skin here on this bed. You can kind of hear the difference. Like if I scrape my nails on there, it's much smoother, and it feels almost fuzzy. So you don't need to overdo it. You might damage the airfoil, start chunking out foam, whatever. But this is like I think an 80 grit perma-grit sanding bar that I made years ago. But I've used this is 80 grit here, I think 80 or 100 grit. Bummer this broke. It's my old man's. I'll have to take it apart and fix it. But all right, so we have sanded the core. All right, so what that's going to allow is the finishing to stick really well. Like the 3M90 is going to stick down there real well. The paint's going to stick well. The lamb's going to stick. It's all just going to stick really, really good. All right, let's move on to the servos. So I'm kind of a stickler with getting the servos identical from side to side, and I'm going to have to measure out on the prototype where I did the servos. I can't remember. What the measurement was. So let me see. So it looks like it's about that corner is about a ½ inch back of the battery bay, but I think this prototype, the battery bay, is a little bit different. Yeah, it's about a ½ inch further forward on this one. So let's start from scratch. And just kind of eyeball this in. So I like to make sure that my control geometry is 90 degrees to the hinge line. You can see on the prototype here, maybe you see better on the other wing panel. You can see that the control geometries are 90 degrees to the hinge line here. So some people, like different designs, have the servos much closer into the battery bay, and they come back and they make an angle. The rod makes an angle with the hinge line, and that it doesn't really cause a big deal on these planes, but from building my 20 some odd years of experience, you always want to have 90 degree geometry just to eliminate any kind of wonkiness in the controls if it's not 90 degrees. So I think gotta get my, so I use a 90 degree angle here. And I think what I'm going to do is put the control horn not too far out, probably, let me see, where is it? Get the actual control horn somewhere here. Okay. Alright, so on this wing, because of the sweep angle, in order to keep the servo from being all the way the hell out here on the wing, you want to keep the control horn pretty close to the root of the elevon. You can see here mine's right on the corner, and this works great. So I'm going to do the same here. So it works out to be 5/8 of an inch in from the edge. So I'm just going to put a little mark there, and then a little mark on the other side. And make sure I don't lose the control horn stuff. Put that away. Put that away. Yeah, put that away. Put that down. Okay. Now, to get that 90 degrees, just bend the elevon up a little bit and get it nice and seated on there. And I think it's going to be just somewhere up in here. I'm going to try to put it as far forward as I can, like right up against this forward spar here. So the servo, I want to put this spline, because that's where the horn is going to be. You want to keep your control rods as short as possible, so the spline goes towards the rear. And actually, let me go do something here real quick on this servo, because I'm going to be using this one. So these ears, I clip those off or sand them off. I'll be right back. All right, so you can see that I got like a disc bench sander. I just grind those things right down. Don't need those for wings. All right, so this is going to allow me to move it up to about right there. So what I do is I kind of just lay in the first one, and then I mirror that over to the other side just to make sure that they're identical. So I get the servo kind of where I want it, and I just mark an outline. All right. And remember that you're going to need some clearance for the horn here. So now, once we get the horn on there, we may find that we may need to extend. Here's the cutout for the servo. We may find that this, we may need a little clearance for servo horn movement forward and back, and we can cut that in after the fact. Once we get stuff installed and start working control throws and stuff, figure out any clearances we might need. Sometimes you also need sometimes I also cut in like a ramped channel extending out so that I can get a screwdriver down on the horn. Okay, so that's the first one. Now let's mirror that over onto the other side. So I'm using known geometry here. So what I'm going to do is use the seam between the outer panel and the core is a flat or a straight line. So what I'll do is I'll just put a mark there like that from the corner of that servo. Okay, and then I use my ruler to measure that distance. Let me see, so that is, I call that 1 7/8 inches. Okay, so now I know that if I use the corner of that servo outline and the mark I placed right there to form my straight line. Okay, and then I know I measure 1 inch. What did I say? 1 7/8 inches. Measure twice, right? That's what they say. Yeah, I said 1 7/8 inches. So I measure 1 7/8 inches out from here. So right there. So you can see there, I've now measured that this mark here is the inside corner of the opposite side of the servo here, the opposite servo. All right, so now what I do is I make another right angle mark off of the elevon. I think you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Let's just caught an X-Acto knife in the foot. Rather than good. All right, so this is going to be up in this area here somewhere. All right. Now, so that's not what's going on here. Something's not working out here. Let's measure again, huh? This is, my thing moved while I was marking, of course. So I'm going to say measure twice, cut once. Okay. Never claimed to be a perfect builder. Okay, so now I'm assured that my, I don't know if you can see it here. Okay, so I'm assured that my control geometries across will be identical, and so control throws will be identical. You won't get any kind of screwy controlled movements or screwy behaviors in flight from uneven control throws in operation. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to get my servo positioned, and I'm going to draw an outline around it. And oops, forgot my clearance. Yeah, up. All right. So now what we do is take our knife again. Now you want to set a depth that's, close to the depth of the servo, maybe a little bit beyond. You can see that that's right there. So I'm going to go another click. Okay. And what you do is you just cut at the servo outline to that depth. You cut the whole perimeter marking that you just marked out. Okay. And we're going to be plucking this out. Sometimes I use a Dremel, but for the purposes of this video, I'll just pluck it out. Some pliers, I'll show you what I do. Now, what I do is I make cross cuts to make like little 1/4-inch chunks out of the foam inside this perimeter. Okay, so. This way. So now you're just pulling and plucking that stuff right out. So as long as you control your depth, the floor of this cut should be pretty darn close to what you set your depth for. It's going to be a little bit uneven, but for the sake of installing your servo, that doesn't matter. Okay, so now I know I'm going to be putting the receiver over in here, so I'm going to cut a channel over into that general area. Not all the way over yet, because I want to maintain this foam here as a cover, so I don't want to be slicing and dicing that part up. So I'm only going to go about a 1/2 inch in for now. Okay. And now we're just going to test fit the servo in place. Wire down in there. Once we laminate it, this will close this slot right up. Not a big deal to have it like that. Okay. There. Now you can see that servo is in there nicely, and you can see that it's not glued in yet, so it's not pressed completely down, but it'll be about in that position. So you can see it's completely covered up. All right. Now I'll just move around to the other side. Needle nose pliers will work fine on this too, as long as it's something pretty thin that you can stick all the way down to the depth of your cut, and then grab and squeeze that foam and just pluck it right out. Okay. And then servo wire channel. Servo. Oh, I gotta go cut the ear off this one. And that one's done. So once it's in and pressed down and glued in, it's going to be nice and flush with the surface there. See? Okay. Thanks for watching.